Cool. We're live, Mr. Wade. Uh, my name is Leonard Brackett, and I'm one of the panelists on the Belizean Affairs show. We have our Belizean Affairs show number 210 tonight. And we're very grateful for those of you who have tuned into our show. We missed a couple of shows before, but we didn't intend to just give up the show and just cease and desist. We have a lifelong agenda. So
Amen.
we'll just hang in there and do the best we can every time. Nevertheless, we have Mr. Wade as another senior panelist for tonight, and he will do us a reading as soon as I finish up the prayer. And we have our chairman for the night who is about to come in any minute now. He's in the background somewhere and loading up something that he has prepared apparently. And so therefore we'll just go ahead and, in the interest of time, since we're running a little late, launch the show, and then as he comes in at his convenience, then we'll just turn over the show to him. So, Mr. Wade, I'll just go ahead and say a short prayer, sir, and Belizean at home and abroad. Uh, this is our formal show, number 206, and I'll go ahead and say the prayer. Loving Father, thou knowest our hearts, our desires, even our most secret thoughts. Please continue to bless us, bless our family members, friends, and loved ones, wherever they are. Bless them by name and number as well. Please continue to bless our country of Belize, its people, and its leadership. We pray that thou mayest bless the country of the United States, its people, and its leadership as well. And that thou mayest bless all those people and countries that are having wars and who are being hurt and devastated for no justifiable reasons sometimes, that thou would be merciful upon them, Heavenly Father. Those people who are experiencing hurricanes and tornadoes and volcanoes and all manner of disasters, man-made as well as natural disasters, we pray that thou mayest grant us all a little reprieve, for we ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So, over to you, Mr.
Thank
Wade.
you. Thank you, Leonard, for that warm prayer.
You're welcome, sir.
Again,
Thank you.
it's always a pleasure to sit in your company, my brother. We have come a long
Yeah,
way.
the pleasure is also mine, Mr. Wade.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, welcome our viewers and listeners, Belizean, both at home and abroad and around the world, uh, to our 210 edition of Belizean Affairs. Thank you. Um, Thank you again, like I said, for that one prayer. And I will continue a reading, Mr. Chairman. I will do a Proverbs chapter 28, 1 to 10.
Yes, sir.
It reads, "The wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are bold as a lion.
Amen.
When the land transgresses, it has many rulers, but with a man of understanding and knowledge, its stability will long continues.
Amen.
A poor man who oppresses the poor is a beating rain that leaves no flood. Those who forsake the law praises the wicked, but those who keep the law strives against them. Evil men do not understand justice, but those who seek the Lord understand it completely. Better is a poor man who walks in his integrity than a rich man who is crooked in his ways. The one who keeps the law is a son with understanding, but a companion of gluttons shames his father. Whoever multiplies his wealth by interest and profit gathers it when gathers it for him who is generous to the poor. If one turns away his ear from hearing the law. Even his prayers is an abomination. Whoever mislead the upright into an evil way will fall into his own pit, but the blameless will have a godly inheritance.
Amen.
That's my reading from Proverbs chapter 28, 1 to 10. Uh, back to you, Leonard.
Um, Mr. Wade,
Yes,
could
sir.
you take a couple of minutes and do a little public service out there, sir? In
Sure,
terms of
sir,
the
sure. No
hurricane and
problem.
everything
To
else,
okay.
as we normally
Yeah, I have
try
a
to do.
couple of words I'd like to say too. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah, as always, Leonard, my people, both at home and abroad, I always like to give a sober reminder of the situation at hand. Right now we're still in the hurricane season. Um, we should not let our guards down. We should take heed, protect our loved ones, our lives, our homes. Protect everything around us, and even give a helping hands to your neighbor,
Amen.
especially the elders, the elderly, and the disabled. And also, Leonard, I always like to remind the people at home that COVID is alive and well. It's just that the system is not talking about it anymore lately because they're not getting any money. There's no more hands out, so they keep it at a low, and they doing it all in the good to they want to promote the thing they call tourism, because the more they talk about it, the less tourists will want to come and visit. They will they will take heed, so they try to sweep it under the rug, but it's alive and well. And for our users on the highways, it's we got to be mindful. um our highways is in terrible shape, and too much traffic accidents, especially from these motorcycles. We have a lot of fatalities lately, Mr. Chairman and Leonard. Too much fatalities. So
My
we
own
need to
ex-
take heed. And I notice
my own experience
quickly,
this
because I see the
last weekend,
chairman
sir.
pops up in the back. I noticed that the system now is gonna. They say they will take a look at the traffic laws for motorcycle. So let's see what they will come up with. So anyway, I will not banter much. I will pass it over to the chairman. Good night, Greg. Nice to have
Good
you.
night, gentlemen.
Good night, Greg.
Good night, Mr. Wade and Mr. Brackett.
Yeah.
It's
Good night, sir.
always a pleasure sitting with you guys virtually,
Thank you.
discussing Belizean affairs. Good night to you, the people at home and abroad, and thank you for tuning into this, the 210th episode of Belizean Affairs. And tonight, the topic I will bring to you is one of major concern. But just to piggyback on what Mr. Wade was saying about the accident, Mr. Wade, I want to say to you and the public at home and abroad, these traffic accidents are happening because these young men are riding like they're devils. They don't give a damn about the traffic laws and they don't heed to upcoming traffic at intersection as well as pedestrian. And I will say this because what I am calling out is the truth. Because of all the motorcycle accidents, it's only male drivers that are dying, and you have females who ride motorcycles as well as these young men and gentlemen. But you don't hear the females dying like the males.
That's
So
true,
that
Mr.
within
Chairman.
itself can tell you that even if they change the laws, it will not make a difference the way these young men are driving. I mean, the need for speed, and if you want to ride like lightning, you will crash like thunder.
True
Again,
enough.
this is
Very
the
true.
people at
Very
home
true.
and abroad. Tonight, I want to bring to you the growth bastardization of our Constitution and why we must be steadfast in not having this government alter our present Constitution, which should be alive and living well. It is the supreme law of the land, and I can tell you personally, beyond my belief, that the government only wants to use it when it has to help them gain for their own interest. As I said before here in Belizean affair, we show and tell, and they always tell and themselves. I want to go back because I'm saying this to things that have been happening in our country that is violation of our constitution. The acquisition of land compulsory, the buying of land after amendments have already passed in the House for tertiary hospital. I can go on to other things that is happening. Now we find the government passing a new amendment to fire some employees from the KHNA. How ludicrous this is. You're talking about building a terrestrial hospital, putting the carriage before the horse, and now you're getting rid of some of the same individuals who help to issue relief to patients who come to these hospitals. People at home and abroad, I want to go back to a part of the nation I just speech by the Prime Minister. And I want to do this because I want to show you how the government, as I said before, is bastardizing our constitution and only use it when it works for them. I can mention other things as the unconstitutional state of emergency, picking up these young men when they have committed no crime and even bar them from section 20, which gives the court judicial review where these young men can seek justice. And if it wasn't for us and Belizean affair, I do believe they would not have even found a task force to inquire into these young men. But let's go to the first video.
And the only nod to any difficulties at all was with the persistent problem of crime, where the Prime Minister actually suggested that constitutional protections are only an armor for criminals.
Indeed, the state of the nation is not without intractable problems. No state can be. Citizen security, for example, constantly tests our mettle, especially because the same constitution that guarantees your liberties can at times provide armor for disturbers of the peace.
It's a dim view of the nation's foundational document, but the PM still claimed moral high ground.
Among
Now, people at home and abroad, you heard what the Prime Minister said, and I want to show you right there and Belizean affairs that the Prime Minister himself is committing crime in legalized blackmail in violation of the same constitution that he's speaking about. Let's go to the other tape before I go to you, gentlemen.
Conversation, and when it's time, we're just gonna let cut.
Cut,
We're gonna do
yeah.
that, okay? So, thank you. So the first thing we gotta go into: did the government really try to pull a fast one with the compulsory acquisition?
Yeah, so we have some new information. The compulsory acquisition is of the 23.4 acres of the Mike Feinstein property out on Stake Bank. The government said it would compulsorily acquire it on, they published it in the Gazette. The first publication was August 28th. Right, it was announced on August 27th, they published it August 28th. Now, the law requires that in order to effect the compulsory acquisition, you have to then, 6 weeks later, you actually acquire it with the second publication.
Okay.
6 weeks later would have been October 9th, thereabouts. However, on October 2nd, because the Feinstein Group challenged it and sought an injunction, on October 2nd, the government of Belize gave the court an undertaking, and there you can see what's acquired, all that outer part. The inner part is the nut, which OPSA has, and the outer part is the dough. So now, on October 2nd, the government gives an undertaking to the court because the court cannot have an injunction hearing in time. And the government says we will not proceed with the acquisition until, with the second publication, which makes it complete, we will not proceed with it until there is a hearing on October 17th.
Okay.
Now, when you give the court an undertaking, that's serious business, right?
Of course.
Well, October 12th, I think that is the date, yes. October 12th, the government made its second publication in defiance of the court undertaking. So we have that paper, and that's the government then proceeds on October 12th. It's a single paper that I sent in there. Yeah, there it is. October 12th. The government proceeds with the acquisition against its specific undertaking before the court of the High Court of Belize, duly signed by Cordell High.
Wow.
So they proceed with the compulsory acquisition in defiance of the court, with the hearing to be held on 17th October. So they proceed to the hearing like nothing happened, and the judge prevailed on the government to hold off on the acquisition, which has already been completed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to the judge, let me just say unbeknownst to the court. Unbeknownst to the court, and so the government says, okay, we will hold back on it until the hearing is held, the full trial is held December 19th and 20th,
Yeah.
with a judgment to be issued in January.
I remember that, yeah.
But the government has made a fool of the court.
Yeah. Yeah.
The government has made a fool of the court, but this is how the Briseno doctrine is. We know business.
Okay.
So, then on October 21st, the government publishes another gazette. They publish another, and we have that second one, saying that, hey, anything else we may publish, the government is now trying to quietly backpedal. Its second publication, which made complete the acquisition. The government then, on October 21st, publishes the second notice, or the third notice on this. And if we can zoom up on it, it says at the end, if we can zoom up at the end of it, it says that this preempts any previous, like, attempt at acquisition, there it is, any republication of the above mentioned Gazette declaration. Hold on. So now it says any republication, repost, or further gazetting of the above mentioned first declaration, that's August 28th, or any publication, gazette declaration, or notice related to the acquisition, entering upon taking part between October 2nd and the hearing determination is not authorized by the government of Belize and is null and void of no effect. So this is the government quickly. It's like your thief and put back. Yeah, just you put it back. I never take it.
Some conscience hit them.
Yeah, well, I suspect in the
Conscience.
So we had
This is what I fears. This is what I
Thank
fears,
you.
Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Punch them in the nose.
It's I thank you for always the items that you put up. It comes from their very own mouth. And the things that they do, right? Um, it's called show and tell, right? We have already beat this horse already, right? And we had come to the nation and we had said exactly what they were going to do, right, Leonard? Right,
Exactly, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
We punch them in the nose, Mr. Wade.
6 months ago, 8 months ago, we told them what they were going to do this week, right? Or when was that? That was 2 days news, last week news, right? That acquisition, that final draft of that acquisition, that was last week. But anyway, that's to show you, Mr. Chairman and Belizeans at home and abroad, that
We're always ahead of them, Mr. Wade.
yes,
We're always ahead of them, sir.
so right on that, Leonard. But like I say, just to show you that when we talk about a government that bastardize our constitution, violate our Belize constitution, and we show them that them guy not care, right? And the way they do things, right? Like they don't care about the constitution. We talk about the way they think that, well, they act like if they are above the laws of this country. You see, the only certain people in this country commit crimes and get penalized and go to jail and they do whatever they want to do to them. But them here now, they could do whatever and get away with it. See, that's the thing, right? And sadly, Mr. Chairman, right, these guys do these things to us. And then they leave power next year or next 2 years, and they come right live amongst us, They don't fly up yonder and live up yonder, which I would have liked to not see them based on the things they do to the poor people, right? And how they come back to the very same people who then do these things to again and again and again, just so that they could do them again. Right, Leonard. We talk about these things, but these guys, they do not care. You see the last episode with Courtney and the cabinet secretary and the other Koi guy. You see how they behave in the court of inquiry, like they don't have to answer. They are above that.
Like you said, Mr. Wade, they're above the laws of our country.
Yes, sir. Yes. So it's good that we continue to point out these evil people, right? As for me personally, Rudy, where I don't have no respect for people like them, right? And sadly, that I contribute to their salary, I contribute to their behavior, right? That's the thing that hurts me, right? So, we have always said, right, that how these guys behave, and all they do, they come to the people to get their okay so that they could sit up there so they could violate, right? And they do it time and time and time again. People are getting tired of that, man, right? And sadly, the guy, Courtney, you see the interview he gave. Yeah, so what? Yes, the taxpayers, the PME, yes, I still employ with the people of this country, but I represent Koi. And the taxpayers, the PME again, to represent Koi, to tell the Senate that if you don't like what I do, you know what to do. No, who does that? What kind of a person would do that, guys?
Somebody
Let's
that
see,
needs to go to
you.
jail.
Just
Somebody that
imagine
hasn't gone to
Leonard, me
jail
and you or
for
Greg would
previous
do that.
crimes.
Where would I end up right now? Right? But anyway, that's what I got to say on that clip there, Greg. We talk about it. We show them. We show them that we watch them, and we're not afraid for calling out. Right? We're not afraid. So thank you. Back to you, Mr. Chairman. That's what I got to say on that. And I
I
thank.
go to you,
Let me
Mr.
go.
Brackett.
Give me another second there, Greg, before I
Go
thank
ahead, sir.
Jules. I thank Jules to see the gross violation that these guys have done, right? You see it, and he pointed out, right? Everything that we talk about, he pointed out. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Will. I go to you, Mr. Brackett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I also would like to commend Jules for getting involved in the process and constantly trying to be an advocate for accountability.
Amen to that.
Yes, it is true that sometimes he's overbearing and he challenges some of these people that don't want to be bothered. But that's about the only way we'll get this process work to the benefit of the people. I wish other media houses would pursue the same
We
type
say
of
it all the time, Leonard.
journalistic
We say it all the time.
journalistic
Yes.
integrity
True.
and try not to make the news but to report the news. Try not to be a part of the news but report the news. Be a true journalist. But some of these media houses, of course, they're profit making ventures. You know, they're not doing what they're doing for free. They make money, and this is their objective to stay profitable as they continue their business endeavor. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is that some of them seem to have sold their soul to the detriment of our country. And they're prepared to take the money and run because they seem to understand their assignment. And they don't criticize when they see evil being done or wrong being done. They don't call the Prime Minister or any of the other ministers on the carpet, or for that matter of fact, the police commissioner on the carpet, when he insists that he's going to take the law onto himself as the head lawman and violate, under the color of law, other individuals' constitutional rights, which is a travesty unto himself because he himself is also a lawman, a lawyer, by the way, who by being a lawyer, he's an officer of the court. As well as being a police commissioner, he's an officer of the court. He works for the court. So he gets on the TV and the radio this evening and stipulate that he is going to take his subordinates and go to certain areas where they're having difficulties and just run roughshod over the population out there so that he can prove that he's a better man than the bad man there. I wouldn't have a problem if that was done within the bounds of the law and the Constitution, by the way, Mr. Chester Williams. Do your job. We have been asking you to do that For years now, for decades. Well, let me not go that far as to say decades. Long before the beginning of this particular platform, we have been demanding that the government officials and the police commissioner and the police do their job. They asked for the job, they got the job, they're being paid to do the job, and to be paid and not getting the job done means you're receiving funds from our consolidated funds as a payment for services you're not rendering. That's accepting money under false pretense. Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Minister of whatever department, as well as Mr. Chester and your subordinates, get the hell out there and do the people's job. That's why the people pay you guys. Don't come telling us how bad a man or a bad man you're going to be to intimidate the bad man while breaking our laws, bastardizing our constitution, and committing crimes under the color of law in order to pretend to be a lawman. A lawman doesn't have to commit crimes under the color of law to do his job. And that's all we're asking you guys to do. Do your job. Arrest who has to be arrested, put in jail who has to be put in jail, take whoever has to go to the court, prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law, send them to jail for a long period of time if that's what the justice rules on, or crack them down neck. Because when they're out there on living people and killing other people, some people that are actually being killed who are innocent and has nothing to do with their craziness, there's no reason to spare their life, to continue doing the same craziness over and over and over, and to dare the system and to say, well, there's no consequence, so they will continue doing what they're doing and terrorizing the whole rest of the society. That's why we have a police department. That's why we have a government, to do their job. We've been saying that over and over. But back again, specifically, to the tape. We need to have people who are serious about being accountable and being honest, that are willing to be public servants and not to be served by the public. Because unfortunately, that is what's happening in today's Belize. The public serves the interests and well-being of the politicians, who do not in turn, in good faith, serve the people's interests and well-being. I want to say specifically, these people gave the court an understanding. Remember, I keep repeating that thing about understanding that the unelected one has a penchant and a habit to go to the Senate and give the Senate other colleagues understandings and have them sign off on laws that they themselves were against. But for the understanding that they got, they felt that they were going to be put ahead of the table, and therefore the laws would not affect them. And it turned out not to be true, because the law does affect them. And once it's the law, black and white, if it can be proven constitutionally viable and valid, then all of them are justifiably entangled with it. So all the understanding doesn't amount to nothing. We have the Attorney General himself giving Oceana and other entities, the churches and others, understanding. I told you guys what was going to become of this particular issue a few shows back, because they were giving understanding. Now you have Jews bringing out the documents to prove to you that what I was saying back then was 100% correct. Because now with the time having passed and with the documents in hand, Jews can point out to you, the general Belizean populace at home and abroad, that these guys were giving understandings while at the same time they were going ahead and violating the very understanding that they were doing, all in the interest of gaining time so they could complete the process. And after the process is completed, then they can claim, well, it's all a done deal, so therefore they have no time to spend to try and go back and redo it because it's done. That's what the understanding is about. To hoodwink the court. They gave the court an understanding in the issue of the Section 90 violation of our Constitution, and the requirement to have nearly as equal a number in each division of voters so that each division can have nearly as equal a representation as the other. We have some divisions that have almost 10,000 people, and other divisions that have less than 2,000 people. And those two divisions, one with 10,000 and one with 2,000, according to them and according to the judge that ruled on that particular case, that is all right. The government gave an understanding, violated its understanding, but that the judge will throw out the case because the government gave an understanding, and that understanding, according to that particular judge, was met and fulfilled, which was bogus, by the way. So what the devils are we going to have even judges who are in cahoot with the government? Presumably, I would believe because they don't want to have their contract terminated. I don't know that to be a fact, but their conduct and what they do indicate that those are the things that are more important to them. Because if that judge was to have ruled according to the law, the supreme law of the land, he would have vindicated that very supreme law of the land and would have turned out to have been a judge following the law of the country. Instead, he was following, or she was following, something else of other merits that had nothing to do with the constitutional breaches or the requirements for the government to comply. Even after having given the understanding, the judge turned around and said, well, she believed the understanding that was given to her as having more validity than the complaint that the complainant brought to her attention, and therefore the government should be exculpated or allowed to go ahead and continue violating the Constitution. I yield back, Mr. Chairman. Greg?
Thank you, Mr. Brackett.
You're welcome,
But
sir.
it goes beyond that. Because here in Belizean affairs, we have been beating this dead horse that is finally coming to life. The proof is in the pudding, and we have shown that. And it will not stop because I will express to you, the people at home and abroad, what is happening. We have seen with the amendment that was done with the referendum act, the churches, along with uh, the people, Oceania, and it continues to go on and on. Mr. Brackett, if you may, sir, can you please bring up 69(9) of our Constitution? I will want to have you read that because it comes back to exactly what we're seeing. The present government is using Section 9 of 69(9) that they did not take out of the Constitution when they were told to do so by the Chief Justice, and now they are using it with no regard to the Constitution. You can see it. They are boldly using it. They don't even have respect for the court, which protects the fundamental rights of the people and the Constitution. That is what is happening here. And he speaks in the and in the speech,
And
Mr.
Mr.
in a
Chairman,
Sunday speech,
Sorry.
Mr.
he's
Chairman, nobody
talking
holds
about
them
the
accountable, right?
Constitution.
You know, so right on that, you know.
He's talking about the Constitution protecting these young men that are committing crimes. But then how when you do it? That is why I
Exactly.
played it.
Exactly.
Legalized blackmail and not
Yeah.
even respecting the judicial system, which is the
That's the
court.
thing. That's the thing. You know.
But,
You
Mr.
know,
Chairman? Oh, sorry.
I sit here tonight and I'm bringing this up to do it. And Mr. Wade, we have been calling them out, especially you. And when they get caught, because they always tell on themselves,
The back pedal.
they rush to do the
try to
wrong
fix.
ills that
Yeah.
they have committed. Let's go to the next page.
Corruption reeks, and then you have to deal with all these things. But anyway, let me not continue my
Yeah. So let's talk about Sundaywood students' choose and education in road repair.
Sundaywood students. They don't need to go to school. This is the road from Sundaywood to Cricket Circle. They don't need an education because they are building roads. There is a collapsed culvert in the road. This is in Toledo East, the fair constituency of the great and legendary Osmond Martinez. But these are students doing road repair because the road broke and they call the government and government not gonna fix it.
Yeah.
So this is last week. These students, and if we can just shuttle along in the footage, you can see them taking stones. They have to get stones from somewhere, put it on the bus, and then fill up the culvert.
Just so they could like.
So
get
students, in order to get to school, now have to repair their own road. Right? So, well, you know, boys love doing this stuff, right? Like, they prefer that than being in school.
Not me.
But so, yeah, that's boys. They make go throw some rock. But I'm just saying, this is an embarrassment.
It is.
When students have to load all these stones onto the school bus and be getting out the school bus to fill up a collapsed culvert in the road. These are basic functions, MIDH. These are basic functions, Osmond Martinez. These are basic governmental functions. I know they ask you to pave the road,
Yeah.
right? I understand that progress is incremental, but it is outrageous that these students should have to fix their own road. They had a big event in Corazon Creek 2 weeks ago. The U.S. ambassador and the minister, they came in by helicopter. I see why they come in by helicopter. Lee boy, they don't fix the road yet. We have to come by helicopter and not do no job. Fix the road, boy.
Yeah.
Fix the road, picnic. So I'm just saying, they had a big opening in Corazon Creek. And while the dignitaries can fly in by helicopter, they can't go to school by helicopter. Fix the damn road. Osmond Martinez, Julius Espat. It's a collapsed culvert. It's not rocket science. I understand the place is remote, but man, the kids have to go to school.
People live back there. You have to
Right?
make sure there's
And-
conditions that could get to and from. Because even just school, like getting around to as well, people can't move out.
Yeah,
Right.
access to many things.
That's not fair to people.
And there's taxpayers in that area.
Exactly. And let's remember too as well when it start raining like this.
See that?
Men and people.
Wow.
So
Wow.
weird. I had to call them out like this. Because night after night, Mr. Wade, you have pointed out these ills.
Yes.
We have started with the school with no teachers. We have come down the line, shown the people, even in the health department, you have been calling them out. And this is the shame the government brings on itself when he's standing up there with his hands out, getting money from the United States that they intend to use for education and energy. But all these things is happening in the rural areas that you don't hear about. Mr. Wade, I go to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, like you rightfully said, you know, these are things that we talk about, you know, the health crisis in our country. We talk about the education system, how bad it is. And we talk about the deplorable, like you just showed there just now, the deplorable conditions of our roads. And especially, Mr. Chairman and Leonard, that kind of situation really irks me, right? Because I could remember 10 years ago when the PUP was in opposition, the very same, may he rest in peace, the very same representative for that Toledo East stood up in the House, along with the guy Ricana, and condemned the then UDP about the deplorable state of those villages, the roads. I know you could remember, right? And every time in this time it flooded out, been flooded out. Hence the reason why here we are again. You showed the children getting out of the buses with rock, big boulders to full up the road so that they could get past that so they could go to school. And you said there that my government, the US government, entourage along with the Belize government was just in that village. But you say how they took those people there by helicopter, right? Went to that same village and they gave such a nice speech, Leonard and Greg, right? They didn't let those people see the road. And they had a reason why they did not let those people see the road. And like you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, and you showed the amount of money they got again. And it will not stop here. Next year, they will get more money for the same thing. And the next year, more money for the same thing. And where we at 2024? Like I mentioned again, Mr. Chairman and Leonard, and people at home and abroad, we not just have one hurricane season. I just draw us back again, to our season we are in. We talk about this a lot, right, Leonard? And Greg? We hopefully that it dawn on these people, hell man, we need to build hurricane shelters, We need to build some good hurricane shelters for the people, right? So that when they leave house, when they don't the shake and the thing, they have somewhere for run to. But I talk about the deplorable community center, the schools, and when they rush so much people to. Now we have a good bathroom, no kind of thing so that these people could at least feel okay, right?
Some of them without roof.
There you go. Without roof, right? There you go. Does these people care, my brothers?
No.
Do they care? But then there's no accountability, Mr. Chairman, for the money given to them. The US not come back and say, Mr. Dean Barrow, you remember the 10 million I give you for so and so? Show me what you do with it. Show me. They not do that. They not come to Belizean and say, remember how the money I give the PUP and give you for fix the road and build schools, proper electrification like you mentioned, and you know how much money they get for that, guys? Show me who you give. Show me who help. That's why I call on the US government to start to hold these people accountable for the taxpayers' money, right? Because it's not their representative money that when they come and give, no, it's US taxpayers' money, right? Hold them accountable. We talk about the More Tomorrow School. You know what the guy, what's the education guy's Fonseca. The last interview, the news guy asked him and say, what are you doing about the situation in More Tomorrow, the situation that we were talking about and beating, right? When that problem there. He says, well, there's only, 50 students there, But the way he bring it across, like he could care less. He said, it's only, the words, only 50 students in More Tomorrow School, right? And he said, I thought about the road situation. I talked to Mr. Espat, and he did work on it. Just a no give a damn attitude, right? But back to that clip there, it takes the school children to be working so hard to get their education, when in fact they shouldn't have been doing that, right? Those roads should have been fixed at this time, 2024, they should have good access in and out to school to gain education, a proper education. But what we are seeing here, 2024, is a sad situation, my brothers, right? So these are things that we talk about daily on this show, right? Along with our healthcare, this country, which is deplorable, right? We see the belly ache. They went to just to get a common CT scan machine, right? A machine that should be in every government hospital in this country, right? But what the poor people are subject to now, and not to mention, I have a little knowledge in the healthcare system, right? Not from in this country, but from abroad, and I know that CT scan that they had gotten is not for general purpose. And remember on, the doctor that came on and say what that CT scan machine was going to do, what it was for, and it's not for what the government is talking that it is for. And don't forget the 3 times, Mr. Chairman and Leonard, that they got money for that very same item. That one item, they got money 3 times. Hold these crooks accountable, man. And sadly, the only people that suffers, you see the school children that is suffering on that clip there, and their parents, right? They are the only one that suffers, right? And the poor, sick people in this country, they are the only ones that suffers, right? And we will continue to advocate through this medium for better, because better could be had, right? But I will not belabor much, but these are things that we talk about a lot. And I just hope that, these people have a heart and try to make life a little better for the Belizean people, man, right? And stop bastardizing our constitution and stop using their office for their own personal, for their cronies and families to get rich and enriches themselves. They need to stop that, man. And if they may do it in a secretive, my brothers, so that nobody know, it's been all right, But they don't give a damn. They just do it. They don't give a damn who knows who, because we see what they do. You carry in a court, then I respect the court, the ruling of the court, like you just played there, right? That clip. Then I respect the ruling of the court. But we have to respect the ruling of the court, right? Greg, Leonard, and myself, and the Belizean people and people in the whole have to respect it. If the court give an order that you have to report to the police station every day or every other day, you have to do it, right? But if the court order them to do certain things, they don't have to do it. What a shame, right? Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Well said, sir, because we will have a major problem. Let's see the effect all this rain is bringing on the coastal highway, what will happen. Because according to the government, they have good engineers, expert engineers. And you know what? I want to call them out
I
for
gotta laugh on
making,
that one, Mr. Chairman. So
I
sorry
want
about
to
that.
call them out for making the most ludicrous move. Imagine $11 million plus for pumping station in Belize and floodgate. Now the water is above the canal. Tell me, how can you pump that out? A waste of money when Belize is below the seabed. What is there to pump out? You're pumping out and the water is well over the street coming in. King Tide proves that. Now we are having excess rain every day. The water cannot even flow in the canal that is close by if you walk some of the streets. Not from Street, Vernon Street, King Street. The canal is right there. Cemetery Road. We can go on. There is not adequate drainage system for these water to run off. But I will go to you, Mr. Brackett. Did you find section 69.9 of the Constitution for me?
No, sir, I don't have the ability to do so. I was hoping that I would have gotten a chance to tell you that from earlier on, but as the program progressed, we went into other points or questions. But I do recall what it says, and if need be, I can use my memory, hopefully, to deal with the subject matter as we expand into it. I will not, like I said, be able to read it for you, but I can say what it says, and I can advocate or deal with the substantive matter, because it is a matter that I dealt with quite substantively before, many a times, and it relates to the fact that Mr. Barrow, under his leadership as Prime Minister, and also as a senior counsel, lawyer, member of the bar, and someone who owns a major law firm and is experienced in the laws of our country, should not have attempted to do what he attempted to do by bastardizing our constitution, only for the judge to tell him to take that matter out of the constitution as was put in there, because it was ruled as null and void. And the end result was that he did not pursue the issue of making those changes as directed by the court, but he left them there. And as you duly pointed out, the present administration is trying to piggyback on that, pretending like it's not, like it's still in the Constitution as a valid law, and they are now trying to piggyback on it to use it and pretend that they can go ahead and be a super legislator with super majority and make laws that supersedes the Constitution as well as the rulings of our judges. These guys are a bunch of scofflaws. They're a bunch of people who do not have any regards or respect for our laws, and they have no intention to abide by our laws, even though they swore allegiance to it. Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask if you would just proceed to point out the section that you wanted, which was section 69.9
69.9.
and 69 and section uh, part A, part 1, section 2, subsection 1. Those are the two sections that Mr. Barrow tried to, subsection 2, I'm sorry. Subsection 2 is the part that Mr. Barrow tried to put in there to tell the courts that for all intents and purposes, the court will not have any jurisdiction or original jurisdiction in any of these cases that relates to civil rights and other public matters such as land acquisition, and the decision by the court as to whether or not a duly land acquisition for eminent domain is legal or illegal. The present government is going ahead and trying to acquire land and declaring it as legal without taking the matter or allowing the matter to go through the Supreme Court for that decision to be made correctly by a judge. Even when they are giving understandings to the judge in this particular case, they are not abiding by the laws. They are not allowing the jurisdiction of the court to bring its weight in terms of deciding that the government erred. Now, the judge would probably say that they erred. I would say they bastardized, because I have a way of saying things a little different than how the judge, in a diplomatic and legal way, would probably say it or put it. But I don't have to always speak in legalese, whereas the court has to, for a matter of record. But these guys are running roughshod over our system of governance and are hoping to be able to do much more so if they can get this revised constitution done before the end of this term. And I'm tempted to believe that even before the end of the year, they want the Constitutional Reform Commission or the PCC turn over whatever documents they have and let them go ahead and do what they need to do or want to do, regardless of what the people are saying. And of course, the people could not have said much in terms of what the committee could bring to the table, because they did not educate the people enough, so that the people would have been in a position to be able to say, well, yes, we want this in, we want that out. And what they will do is bamboozle the process, and they will probably end up having a plebiscite on an issue of questioning whether they should change the constitution, yes or no, because they will not give all a full constitution or put a full constitution on display for the public to look at and vote for or against. So they're bastardizing our constitution, and they're trying to use devious and unconstitutional ways to get the dastardly done. As I said, 69(9) specifically says, for all intents and purposes, all issues that relates to the legislator making laws, that for all intents and purposes, they have exhausted all possibility, and that the court has no original jurisdiction to be able to question any law that the legislator put together. They don't want their laws to be ruled as unconstitutional, as has happened in the past. So Mr. Barrow tried to put that piece of crap into the constitution, only to be struck down and be told by the judge to take it out. And he refused to take it out, and this government does not follow through and do what they were supposed to do, take it out as well. Instead, they're trying to piggyback on it and use it as a battering ram against the very public that this constitution was designed to protect. I yield back, Mr. Chairman. Greg?
Go ahead, Greg.
I'm not sure if he might
Greg?
have his thing muted.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett.
You're welcome, sir.
Gentlemen, I want to go to another field, but I want to clear this field so that
Greg?
the
Greg?
people
We're
can see
Greg?
the
We're at
blatant disrespect that is happening
Greg, we're at
when it comes
152.
to our constitution, and I will keep
101.
saying that because when the regular individuals like the classified outsiders commit a crime, they go for years and remand. And you have major ministers from past and present government committing crimes
Under the
that
color
are
of law.
unspeakable, and yet they can walk around. They are not on remand. They can get bail, and life goes on as though they have done nothing.
Mr. Contreras, you decided to walk out.
My attorney has decided, has advised me, my attorney has advised me,
Sir, who is your attorney?
Mr. William Lincoln, maybe you can call him and use respect, because very unfair.
Yeah, the pants.
I am a court order, yes.
The situation with the pants, you chose to.
No, never.
Why did you choose not to wear
I
pants?
cannot eat.
Yeah. But don't you feel like you're answerable to the commission?
I have a court, live court.
Yeah.
I have a live matter in the court. I'm sorry. You can ask my attorney, please. Thank you.
And when I will stop the tape there, no respect to the Belizean people, a constitutional Senate hearing. The man showed up in a short pants and walk out. I go to you first, Mr. Brackett. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to appear to be carrying any water for this gentleman, because as far as I'm concerned, he needs to be in jail, or should have been in jail long before now, or whenever we get around to convicting him for the crimes that he's alleged to have committed. I believe that the man did commit the crimes based on the evidence out in public so far. I'm not a judge, I can't pronounce him guilty as a court would, but in my mind, he's guilty as hell. I have no regards or respect for the gentleman. I know that he attempted to play the same cards like the other knuckleheads. All the more I have less respect for him. But legally speaking, he has a live matter before the court, and therefore, justifiably so, he's claiming his rights and hoping that the reporters will understand the predicament that he is in, that he cannot be saying things that become prejudicial to him in his own defense later on. So as someone who is a stickler for the law, I do have to point out that his attorney gave him the right advice in this instance, but that does not exculpate him from what we have the evidence so far in public to know that he's guilty as hell to have committed the crime that he committed against our country when he was entrusted with powers that belong to us, not to himself. And he used those powers and suborned those powers to the interest of a bunch of mafias and put us over a barrel to where, had we gone ahead under Mr. Briceño's effort to legalize that criminal enterprise that they were involved with, then we, the Belizean people, would have been over the barrel for 25 plus years. With a whole lot of craziness. I'm not going to get into the details of that. I want to go back and compare that, or this particular scenario with Mr. Contreras, with that of the two senators then that came, the two senators and the Deputy Governor General, as well as this one and the same Mr. Stuart Leslie, if I call by name, who is actually and is the Cabinet Secretary. These gentlemen have no justification for turning around and walking out of that duly constituted Senate Investigation Committee, because they had no matters before any other court that legally could have prejudiced their situation. They may claim that there is a potential for legal matters to be brought, but there is none before the court. So they don't have the right to claim that or to speculate as that being the basis for which they are going to deny a duly constituted body of inquiry that has the power of the law behind them, that call these gentlemen under subpoenas to the Senate, and that they will get up and just, they should have been forthwithly arrested and their lawyer arrested for contempt, because that's what judges do to lawyers. They send them but to jail for a few days, a few months, or maybe depending on the level of criminal misconduct, they send them for whatever rational or reasonable time. So Mr. Courtney should have been in jail himself. He knows that, but he's daring enough to say, let the Senate Investigative Committee do what they need to do if they feel like he did not do the right thing to advise his client to do or to commit a crime. To commit a further crime, as a matter of fact. That is, the crime of not speaking to the issues that the committee is empowered to inquire into. The fact that Mr. Stuart Leslie sits in cabinet doesn't mean that there aren't things that he can speak about that doesn't happen in cabinet per se, or specifically as a part of cabinet. There were other issues that the senators wanted to inquire into. So he had no justifiable reason to just get up and walk away, or his lawyer tell him to just walk away without any response, while having sat his butt there and throw all kind of feces around the committee room, claiming that that was his presentation to them, and then walk out. For that alone, he should have been charged for contempt, because he was under a legal subpoena to appear. And appearing and not following through in terms of responding to the questions that were supposed to have put to him means that he was in dereliction of his duty, his responsibility. And why the hell then would the Prime Minister keep those guys on our payroll in his office? That itself is another offense to our system of governance, to which the Prime Minister in cabinet colludes and conspire to keep things in secrecy that they don't want none of us Belizeans to know about. But they want to use our governance power to facilitate. I yield back, Mr. Chairman. Greg?
Thank you, Mr. Brackett.
You're
But
welcome,
let me
sir.
say this. In the nation, in the state of the nation speech, you heard the Prime Minister, what he said about the Constitution and how it's protecting some people. I want to say this to the Prime Minister. You should be lucky this country is not a republic.
Yet,
Some ministers like these ones that are walking around would not be walking around freely as they are doing right now. Because anybody who follows international politics and countries that are republics, especially in Latin America and Guatemala, knows what those electors do to people who violate their rights. You find them hanging from trees or cut up in pieces in different places. So I'm saying this to say beware of what you speak about, because the sword has two edges. I go to you, Mr. Wade, before I go to the next speaker.
Quickly, thank you. Quickly, guys, on that issue there, Greg, that you played, I would say that pretty much like Leonard, I share the same sentiments. The guy did what he walked out of the Senate. He did what Courtney and the other two crooks did, right? He walked out too, and he claimed that he have an issue in front of the court. But I'll go a little further. Is that that guy ended up at the Senate hearing today because he was forced to. The police drug him in. That guy was eluding the Senate for quite some time now, right? So he didn't say that. The police dragged him in there today. So he had also come in and say what he said, right? Whether I do not know if it's true that the man has anything in front of a court, any issue, and what is it all about, if it has anything to do with the Portico deal. I don't know what he has, but he uses that. He got away, right? So I don't know for how long he will continue to get away. But remember now, the guy, Courtney, when he got up, when he walked out, he says they will not come back until after Mr. Contreras show up for court. That's what he said. So it's all, and he knew damn well that nothing is going to be done because Contreras will not answer anything. So then that by him, he will not come back to the Senate, right? Because he knew what he said.
but who is he to determine what the Senate is supposed to determine? That is the prerogative of the Senate.
He already
That's the
knows,
empowerment of the
Leonard.
Senate.
He already knows what is
He's
going
the
to
head leader
happen.
of government business in the Senate, and he's
Yes.
hiding behind that.
Yes, exactly. The Courtney guy already know how all the Senate inquiry is going to play out. He knows that,
Right?
right? Right,
They
guys.
don't suppress it. They don't oppress it.
Yes. So, Mr. Chairman, for me, that like past Senate hearing, I think it's a waste of taxpayers' money, waste of time, because you see how they went all the baby they had to drag Montero in court for the crimes he had committed, and that man is around walking around the place here, right?
Mr.
What
Wade,
came out of it?
Mr.
Wasted
Wade,
taxpayer. Yes, go
could
ahead,
I
Leonard.
contribute a little thought to you, sir?
Go
On
ahead.
the same issue with Mr. Courtney. Didn't that
Okay.
gentleman in that same interview stood up there in front of the public on the public airwaves, as we have seen from the different television broadcasts of his, and said that he don't see any reason why the Senate hearing is continuing because they're just wasting public's money.
You see what I said?
They're wasting public money by paying his ass to go there and behave the way he did. He never explained that.
You see?
The public money is to do the public's business. That's what the Senate was doing.
Yeah.
So he should not have been paid to come there to disrupt that process. And then to
So-
turn around and talk crazy about they should shut the Senate hearing down because it's a waste of public money. He's an idiot.
So I end by saying, Mr. Chairman, is that in terms of the Senate hearing, the same thing that one produced, the last one, the same thing this one is going to produce, and that's nothing. Just waste of taxpayers' money. Money that they could have been put in the hospital to buy much needed medication, put in the schools, help the education system, or put on the roads that badly needed. You know, so nothing is going to come out of that, Mr. Chairman. I yield back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. But it goes beyond that. I will tell you why. Both past and present government is protecting each other because, as you can see, they are both all over foreign investors, and it's these big foreign investors. Likewise, both government past and present has refused to fully implement UNCAP, and that is the key to everything that is happening in this country.
Exactly.
And I will take it a little further because the present government is speaking about there is no democracy because there is no opposition. And I will say this again, democracy lies in your constitution. The supreme law of the land
Supreme law of the
gives
land.
you the right along with the referendum act,
Yeah.
which gives the people the power for national security, not the government, to recall any one of these ministers, including the Prime Minister, with a no confidence vote. Now, I want to go to a piece of tape. I want you, the people at home and abroad, to hear the commissioner, who is, in the sense, beginning to sound like the Prime Minister, who says he will not get involved or take sides between two private entities.
Yes, he does.
As we all
Even
know,
so, he does.
the United Democratic Party is going through a fabulous show. And today, we had an episode of Ms. Pantan and her representative trying to take over the building. But I want to play the tape because I want the public at home and abroad to hear what the commissioner said. Let me go to the tape.
We were narrowing down on those persons who we believe are orchestrators of the spate of robberies we have seen in the Belmopan area. And we were narrowing down on those persons who we believe are orchestrators of the spate of robberies we have seen in the Belmopan area.
That is not the tape I intended to play, gentlemen. But let me say this. The commissioner claims that he is not taking sides, but his advice to Mr. Barrow is to go to court and file some papers. Likewise, his advice to Ms. Pantan is the property that the UDP has their office is in trust to a lady.
Miss Bailey.
And the lady has given Ms. Pantan the right to take over the building. Now the commissioner is saying that what Ms. Pantan should do is go to the court and file a eviction 30 days notice to Mr. Barrow. And then if in 30 days he does not exit the building, then they can get a court order to evict him. Now let me say this. Here we go, a commissioner who's the commissioner of police, the highest ranking police officer who studied law, does not know the law. And I will say this point blank.
Mischief making.
A, Mr. Barrow is not renting that building. He's not paying a monthly rent where they can evict him. The building belongs to the UDP party and it is run by a constitution. When the masses gathered and had a convention and most of the party decided they do not want Mr. Barrow for the leader anymore, likewise, those people who's the majority of the delegates have the right to go and overtake that building. I will say this right here and now. May it be you, Mr. Wade, may it be Mr. Brackett or anybody. If your wife has a sister, a brother that is staying with you and they are there for months, maybe a year, you do not have to go to the court to evict them. They are there by your leisure, that is your property. And the same goes for Mr. Barrow, who is not renting the UDP headquarters. I go to you for your closing, Mr. Brackett.
Thank you very much, sir. On this particular matter, I'd like to bring to the attention of my colleagues on this show, as well as Belizeans at home and abroad. We're dealing with political matters as well as legal matters. But as regards to the legal matters, the good commissioner was out of his elements, even though he's a lawyer as well as the commissioner of police, by stipulating that he will not get involved with political affairs and or with those two entities weighing in on one side and or the other, but yet he's willing to give advice to both. I would call it mischief making on behalf of the PUP who have him employed. That's what his recommendation amounts to. For example, there's two constitutions. The Belize, or the Constitution of Belize, which is our national constitution, and the Constitution of the United Democratic Party, which is a political constitution. The issues that relate to the running and governance of that political party are largely within the domain and control of the party constitution. Our general Belize country's constitution speaks very softly and little, if any at all, on the issue of political constitution. While it does speak on the issue of the government have no right or ability to be able to, or should have no rights or ability to be able to decide what association you join, or church, or whatever group, that is largely the purview and rights of the individual. That is how the or national constitution speak to that matter. So our national constitution, which the judges and the legal system uses, has no what you'd call in legal term standing or rights to get involved with party constitution and dictate what they are, what they are not, how it should be and how it shouldn't be, or to interpret any of that issue. Which is why, if any of these proponents were to take that matter to court, as recommended by our learned lawyer, chief of police, or commissioner, the court, more likely than not, if you have a judge that is worth their salt, would say they don't have jurisdiction from the lowest to the highest level unless there's a criminal matter involved. Do Belizean people understand what I just said? I hope they do, and if not, please go back and revisit the laws or get legal counsel, but be careful and beware. There are legal counselors out there who will tell you just the opposite of what I just said to you. Some for nefarious and devious reasons, for political agendas, and or for whatever other understanding of their assignments is all about, to bamboozle your butt. I'll say it again. There are two constitutions that we're dealing with in regards to this issue. One has jurisdiction and standing in terms of determining and interpreting what is it that the UDP is not, and how it's supposed to operate, and where the powers lie, and how the powers are supposed to be exercised. That's a matter for political process. And within each constitution, whether it's PUP or UDP constitution, at those levels, you have what you call different structures and different entities that have different levels and parts of powers that constitute the whole party operations, such as, for example, the party executives, the day-to-day managers of the party. There's like a dozen plus different organizations that have different parts of responsibility as vested by the Constitution of the United Democratic Party. And each unto itself is a subservient of the Constitution. And the highest level body inside of that Constitution is the national or annual or biannual conferences. When these delegates get together, they hold the power to do or undo anything that has to do with the party. They can recall a party leader, they can disband a committee, or any other subservient or lower level organizational structures are subservient to this particular group that had their meeting on the 20th of October. Even though the chairman, or I'll call him the previous chairman, Mr. Perefit, has certain amount of leeway in the party structure and organizational prerogatives as per the Constitution. But when he fails his responsibility, or when he decides that he's not going to carry out his responsibility, derogate from his rights, and bastardize the Constitution, then he has no power to turn around and say that he is stopping a duly constituted, powerful body more than himself and any other committee that he belongs to from coming into existence and or from sitting and voting according to their will, because they're the maximum power of the party. He didn't explain that on Love FM or on any other shows that he went. He started trying to explain that, well, the party constitution says that the chairman should this and the chairman should that. And he is not doing what the chairman should do. So for all intents and purposes, that is one of the bases on which he was kicked out of the power structure of the party by that same organized group who have the powers of the party unto themselves. As a matter of fact, whatever they decided was final, because they are the duly constituted delegates. Even though they were being disparaged and being told that some of them were not legitimate delegates and some of them, their term had been ended, those delegates sit for 2 long years, during which they have a certification given to them to certify them for those 2 years. And anything that happens within those 2 years that they make decisions on is valid according to the
That is
Constitution of the
correct,
United Democratic Party.
Brackett.
Okay?
That is correct, and I hope to see the outcome of that, Mr. Wade. I go to you for your comment and the closing, sir.
Thank you.
You
Thank
have
you.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Leonard.
Welcome, sir.
It's always a pleasure to sit in your company.
By the way, Mr. Chairman, can I ask Mr. Wade for 1 second? I just want to make one additional statement, not long. And the statement is why I speak the way I speak and say the things that I say, especially as regards to the Constitution of the United Democratic Party, is because I was one of 3 people that drafted the original party constitution. So I know what the hell I'm talking about. And I know what is expected. And I know that there have been changes, but those changes do not take precedence over the decision of the biannual conferences. I yield for right now because I have a lot more to talk about on those
Thank you.
particular subjects later on.
Thank you, Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you
Chairman.
for you put that across here so that
I don't want to leave out and think that I don't know what the hell
I
I'm
want
talking about.
to thank our viewers and listeners to that support us. Thank them for tuning into our 210 edition of our Belizean Affairs show. Mr. Chairman, be short. My message now is to the people. I say this to say that we are at 2024. Has this two-party system made your life better? Take a look at the governing system. Take a look at the people you continue to elect to protect and serve you and your family. Take a look at that and decide if you have been doing the right thing. But I say this to say that in this coming election, if you're sick and tired of this two-party system that has us where we are 2024, on the ballot there will be a new entity that we call the Belizean Justice Movement. In our constituency, we will have representation. So after it's all over, we don't want to hear, well, we never see no change. All over we see that red and blue. Because I'm telling you no lie again, right? So please, take heed and for change. In the next election, you will have change. So we want to hear the next day after the election, well, we never see nobody else. So support the UDP and the PUP and take your lick again for the next 5 years or 10 years or whatever. But I urge you to support this new entity that will take us in a new direction, that will bring back the country to the people where it belongs. Back to you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. It's always a pleasure. May God bless Belize.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. With that said, I would like to say good night to the people at home and abroad. Thank you for tuning in, and again, you can tune in on Wednesday to a 211th episode of the Belizean Affairs. Have a great night. The showers are coming down as we speak, so be prepared for tomorrow. Again, thank you for tuning in. Good night.